Assalamu alaikum, Tahir. How are you?
Walaikum salam. Nice to be on here with you, Qaisar, and greetings to all the listeners out there.
Um, Tahir, I've been following you on YouTube for a while, to be honest, and listening to the work that you do and the compositions that you perform with your group. But I'll say kind of from the outset, I know very little about you as a person, you as an individual, what motivates you, what inspires you, and kind of a little bit about your journey into Qawwali itself. So, can you tell us a little bit about you as a person, first of all? So, when did you start? Let's start there. When did you start?
Yeah, it's hard to abbreviate such a story, as far as my connection to this music and this life path, I must say. We made a movie about it. It's called Music of the Mystics. It's a Qawwali documentary that also shares our story, since everybody's always asking, as somebody that has come from the Western world, from Canada, and been so deeply involved in the Qawwali tradition. How did that happen? That's the most common question. And to put it very simply, when I was young, I was really drawn to find spiritual meaning, and through that journey, uncovered and explored the sacred teachings of the East, of the Indian subcontinent, and started learning Sanskrit and reading the Upanishads and the poetry of Rumi, Hafez, and all that was available to me. But when I heard first, the classical music and how that carries the spiritual essence of that land, that's what really drew me in, especially, as well as into Tasawwuf and the Sufism. And when I finally heard Ustad Nusrat Fatih Khan Sahib, that really, touched my heart to such a degree that I had to understand it deeper, had to learn, and one thing led to another, and it was a very long journey with many parts of uncovering the tradition in India and Pakistan, over the last quarter century or more.
And we talked about Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. You mentioned him, and I had the fortune of going to Konya last year and sitting there, and it's that spirituality is not something that is easy to put into words. It's an emotion, it's a feeling, it's kind of something that transcends over you when you are in the presence of that sort of mysticism
Mm,
and that sort of experience. And
well said.
is this from sort of a religious point of view, or is it a spiritual journey for yourself?
I think it's a bit of both. For a lot of Qawwalis, they say, in the Qawwalis themselves as well, the Kalams, that this devotion is the namaz and is the pilgrimage. And I think to some extent it is a literal perspective for, sacred music artists, that the practice of this musical tradition, with the poetry, with the rags and everything, with the sama, all these elements is extremely sacred and religious. It brings you to that devotional state that we all yearn for. So it's treated with a lot of adab, a lot of respect, the practice of it. So I think the whole idea of Qawwali is to, welcome people into that state of ishq hakiki, to that state of devotion. And of course, the artists themselves have to embody it. They have to be rooted in their tradition, in their knowledge, in their devotion, and that captivates the audience, inshallah, and it becomes a communal experience, which to me is such a beautiful part of this tradition.
And that's the real thing about Qawwali it is that communal experience because people can get involved by sort of clapping or singing or chanting or whatever you want to call it alongside the performance, the Qawwal, and it's a joyous experience for everybody to get involved at some level or another, whether it's by sitting there visualizing or closing your eyes and thinking about your own personal journey, or kind of getting involved in one way or another as a person. I think it's supposed to be a journey which is uh, it's supposed to include you. It's supposed to be an inclusive sort of journey. And when you've been performing, I mean, you've already done a few performances in some of the European cities. What did you notice? Is it different in every city, the audience participation? Do you sense that there's something different that comes back from the crowd? Because it's a two-way communication sort of journey, isn't it? Where you're performing, but also you're receiving some form of response from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said earlier, it's very inclusive, and that's part of the beauty of the experience. It's not meant to feel like a show. Um, a lot of the Qawwali inspiration we've had is, living and um, listening at the dargahs throughout India and Pakistan, as well as in the Mehfil Sama, like the Sufi gathering, which is usually runs all night and might have multiple Qawwali groups.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So listening like that, it's very interactive, and that's really the beauty of it. And in some ways, like you say, people are outwardly interacting, whether they're getting up and going into a state of hal, or whirling, or clapping, or singing along, so many different ways. They're just shouting out whatever it is, va va va, ali ali. But a lot of that, what's happening is inward, especially in a lot of the more conventional cultures, like we were just in Scandinavia for the first part of our tour. And still, there's a lot of people really feeling the music outwardly, and that helps the Kawals know that people are appreciating it. But it's also, people experience it within. It really awakens the heart, that devotion. It's just so passionate and so intense. So, yeah, it's got so much fire behind it, this genre. So it's interesting sometimes when we're playing a concert, we have all these really classic kalams that we really want to sing because they're very deep, they're very religious, they're very mystical, they're very musical. And then sometimes my group or myself get a little restless, like, oh, we should probably play like the popular tunes like sooner because we want to see people respond, and to
yeah,
kind of remind that not all of the feedback you get from the audience is outward. And most of the Qawwali groups, as you see, especially in the UK, just offer kind of what we call like wedding style Qawwali or halagula Qawwali, just like the popular tunes, like the short ones, and it misses a lot of the depth and a lot of the Waba tradition, the andaze musiki, like the way that our ustads have taught us to carry this music. So it does feel important that we stick to performing, offering the kalams that in their full capacity, the deep and meaningful ones, as well as the exciting like Masta Kalandar and Pia Gala Aya and Akiardi Kidia and all these ones too, maybe sometimes later in the set.
yeah. Well, it's a very special sort of week for the listeners and viewers of Radio Sangam, because the sort of end of the week starts with yourselves. You are the start of the week for us on Friday with your Qawwali performance in Dewsbury, and then on Saturday we're in Fez for the Sacred Music Festival,
Cool.
and on Sunday as well. So it's kind of a weekend of sacred music, and that sort of is the theme of Radio Sangam for that weekend, and it starts with yourselves and your group here in Dewsbury.
Wow.
So your own sort of teachings, and your teachers, you've referred to them already. I mean, Qawwali has been, it's from the 14th century, 13th century even, the things that have started from different gharanas. Is there a particular gharana that you follow, or that you take most inspiration from?
Well, we have a lot of respect for a lot of great kawals, mostly from the past.
Mm,
Um, and so we've sat with and lived with and learned with a lot of great artists throughout India and Pakistan over the years. um, but it's important, to receive the proper teachings from an ustad, like having the initiation ceremony. So I had first, when we started, I was living in Faisalabad in the house of Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahib himself, just after he passed away. So I was learning with Rahat Fateh Ali Khan, and his whole ensemble would be there, and Dillar Hussain would be there, and they'd be practicing long hours or traveling to a mahfil somewhere in Pakistan. Those were like the good old days. And but Rahat Saab was still young then, and so I had my Ganda Bandhana ceremony with Ustad Sher Ali Khan from the famous duo Ustad Sher Ali Mer Ali Khan, also from Faisalabad. Very cured Qawwals at that time and amazing. And you know, my dada Ustad is Ustad Bakshi Salamat, who was one of the foremost students of Khan Sahib Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan's father. So a lot of the great Qawwals of that golden era were shagids of Khan Sahib's father, Ustad Fateh Ali Khan Sahib, and uncle Mubarak Ali Khan. So a lot of the Qawwals from that kind of stream of wisdom, like Rashid Faridi, Majid Faridi, Abdul Rahim Faridi, uh, you know, and Ustad Mirdad Khan Sahab and Amir Ali Khan Murkiyan. There's so many great Qawwals from that period that kind of carry that wisdom. And Khan Sahib Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was one of the younger students of his father, since his father, you know, had passed away quite early into Khan Sahib's study. So we look to a lot of these ustads from that era for our reference. You know, the way I see it, Khan Sahib Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, everybody of course emulates his style, and it's amazing, but he's a bit of a superhero. Not everybody has that kind of God gift, you know, to be able to do the kind of vocal expression and prowess that Khan Sahib has, you know. So, not to say that the older Qawwals are less magical and mystical, but I think in some ways their styles are a little more attainable as far as like what to embody in this, like as you say, gharana, this andaz-e musiki.
Yeah. I think the beauty of Khan Sahib, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, was that he was probably one of the foremost Qawwals who crossed the divide between East and West with a variety of collaborations, and was able to maybe bring Qawwali more formally to the Western Hemisphere. Um, some of it through commercial ventures, and some of it through just being around different people, I suppose. And it gave Qawwali that sort of that genre. It gave it exposure, I think.
Yeah, extremely versatile, extremely versatile. And, you know, there's little controversies and different opinions about, you know, the kind of fusions and the kind of ways the music was, I guess, took on slightly different forms to be able to reach the masses. But, you know, even though that kind of mixing isn't my cup of chai, it's still I still respect that a lot because, as you say, it brought the tradition and created a bridge to the West. And in that process, Khan Sahib didn't completely disregard the traditional genre either. He did it also as a medium, but still maintained the traditional Qawwali at its most high, you know, level.
Yeah. So on Friday, you're coming to Dewsbury, to our wonderful little town of Dewsbury, in Dewsbury Town Hall. Really looking forward to meeting you and also talking to you at Dewsbury Town Hall for maybe a short while. And what can the audience expect from you? And maybe tell us a little bit more about your team as well.
Yeah, we have a lovely team. We've been together for 26 years. So, you know, we've traveled the world many times over and had many sleepless nights with the ustads learning. You know, my team members aren't just there for decoration, they've learned alongside myself for a lot of the time. And, you know, we're mostly a Desi group at this point. Ustad Dillar Hussain, that was the tabla player for Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan for 30 years, he will be with us. And he is a master of all elements of Qawwali, vocals, harmonium, tabla. His eldest son, Abrar Hussain, also from Lahore, has been part of our team for decades. And some of the other Gores in the group, they're also from America, Canada, Britain, in similar ways, found their way to Qawwali at very young ages and studied very hard. It's something when one is, grows up outside of a tradition, it's almost even more alluring when it's like something from over there, and the steps that one has to take to be able to find that wisdom. You can't just cross the street and find an ustad, the process was big. So I have a lot of respect for the artists in my group, and in some ways I could say, like, outside of Pakistan also, like some of the most trained and most what we call tayari qawwals, most developed and most well studied qawwals outside of Pakistan is what forms our group. It's taken a long time to find these people and create these relationships and have so much experience together, both in the field of study and of relating together as friends as well.
Yeah. Can I just interject there then? Learning a language, a different language, is one thing, but uh, learning something which is poetic in nature, um, and probably quite difficult in understanding, the finer nuances of what that particular poem is trying to achieve, or what it is. I mean, is that, or has that been a barrier in the past?
I think it's just another parda, another maqam, another level to appreciating the value of the music. I mean, even when we're in Sema in Pakistan, for example, not everybody understands the words of all the kalams. Like there could be a Farsi kalam,
Yeah,
Saraiki kalam, Purbi kalam, Hindivi kalam, Amir Khusro's kalams, for
yes,
example,
of
or
course, yeah.
Abdurrahman Jami's. Or if you're in Karachi and sing Punjabi Qawwali, not everybody understands. So I think it's a deep uncovering for a lot of people. I mean, I formerly studied Sanskrit, Hindi, Urdu, all that when I was quite young, when my brain was a little more flexible. But there's more to learn, and I've since published, a book of Qawwalis with like in-depth translation to try to help people understand a little bit more of the cultural and spiritual context. Because translating them literally is it's quite a bridge, especially because it spans hundreds of years. And then, of course, in the film, Music of the Mystics that we produced, the
Mm.
10-part film series, there it's, all the ustads, all the shiari, like all the poets and the Sufi teachers, the Gadi Nashin and people like that explaining the meanings of the qawwalis and also, subtitling it there. So we're trying to do our part to help kind of deepen people's understanding of this music via our ustads, but also for people to deepen their appreciation for the traditional, the deep, the meaningful qawwali, and keep that in people's orbit.
And if somebody wants to see this series, Music of the Mystics, where can they access it?
They just search Music of the Mystics. It's called Qawwali, Music of the Mystics. It's on our Sama School of Music website where we have all of our courses and retreats. Um, but there's a bunch of clips on YouTube that are meant to entice people to watch the whole series. It's a big one. It took more than 20 years to film. It almost drove me completely crazy, but it felt like something that needed to be out there for people to have a really comprehensive resource for understanding this music and appreciating it. And of course, hearing, some of the best qawwals of that era well recorded.
Yeah, and I suppose one of the things that happens is when you're researching, documenting, creating, trying to teach somebody something, ultimately you end up learning something about yourself as well.
Yeah, well, we were deep in the process of learning while making the film, but it felt like these experiences were so precious, and we wanted, I think there's interest in the West of people learning about devotional music, devotional culture, spiritual culture from the East. So it felt like our duty to kind of provide that piece of the puzzle of Sufi music from the Indian subcontinent into the world's potential visibility, inshallah.
Inshallah. So on Friday, what can the audiences expect to see?
Some great qawwali, inshallah, by the whole team. Of course, having Ustad Ji there is a big deal as far as people that want to hear like the highest level of qawwali mastery, right in their very own backyards, like yourself. And then we have our darvish, and so it can get pretty musty at times with the dhamal and the ecstatic numbers, but as well it's a deep and mystical listening experience. We recently had what we call our Qawwali Moon or Qawwali Camp, since we all live in different countries, all of us bandmates for the most part. We have to get together at a different time to practice and do riyaz of any new kalams we're including in our repertoire, on top of our own personal riyaz. So we do a Qawwali Moon when we all fly. Everybody flies to Bali at our music school where I live, and we just did a couple weeks of hardcore riyaz. So we've prepared some really great qawwalis in the repertoire, some that are popular, some that people haven't heard since Khansab's time very much. So we're really excited to be offering some new tasty kalams in the repertoire too.
Well, we're really excited to see you and the whole team on Friday. I can't wait for that moment and for that experience. Really, really looking forward to it. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers are as well. And just kind of on a final sort of note, this journey that you have been on yourself, you've obviously gained a lot personally, and grown and developed personally and learned a lot. Have you lost anything during that journey? And I suppose I'm thinking about things. Have you lost friends who might not have understood your journey and maybe misunderstood what you're trying to achieve for yourself as an individual, as a human being?
Not like that, but I've definitely lost my dignity a few times going completely must when listening to the live Qawwali in Pakistan. But I don't think I have anything to prove at this point. I already have a very established group and two children and a wife and a music school, and so I'm not so concerned about my dignity. But I think more so the music business is very hard to survive in this time. As you know, this tour is completely self-produced and self-advertised, which is a huge thing for an artist to do, that's also performing and managing a group. But in this day and age, it's very hard to have basic standard sustainable level of survival as an artist, and there's not much adab or respect in the music industry itself. So it's felt like quite a challenging task to be able to wear all those hats. But I'm, I guess, very proud that we're able to, because of this, present Qawwali in only the most beautiful and revered venues. There's no like marriage halls and things like that. We're playing these in some of Europe and the UK's best, concert theaters like Birmingham Town Hall and Nottingham eh,
Yeah. So
Centre, and some amazing venues. So it feels really a blessing.
yeah, you're absolutely quite right that it is very, very difficult for musicians, because of the nature of things as well and how it's changed with regards to music and how people listen to it. But there is absolutely nothing that beats live performances, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when you really, really appreciate the music. You feel the tabla within you, and you feel the lyrics, and that experience is very, very different from listening to music, I suppose. So it's a different thing in itself. And Dewsbury is a lovely town hall, by the way. It is a
Oh,
beautiful
cool.
building from the outside and the inside, and has a lot of history to it. And what was Dewsbury Town Hall and the location? Did you have somebody who arranges sort of your venues and locations, or was it something that you researched yourselves or a member of your team did? Uh,
Yeah, no, like I said, that's all me. Um, and Dewsbury wanted to play for a long time because a lot of our Desi fans actually live there. And Kansab's own son-in-law lives there, so we thought it'd be fun to be connected to the family. And yeah, so far so good. Looks like it's going to be a packed show.
It absolutely will be. And I'll tell you what, if there's any tickets left over, which I doubt there are that many, you can certainly get them from direct from Dewsbury Town Hall on their website as well. Or you can contact us here at Radio Sangam and we'll guide you where you can get these particular tickets from. There are two areas where you can get them from, but we'll let you know if you contact us. And what I will say is that if you haven't got a ticket yet, you're going to miss out on something absolutely phenomenal, absolutely special, and maybe once in a lifetime opportunity for you to see Tahir Qawal and his team performing here in Dewsbury. And so well, get yourselves there. That's what I would say. I'm really looking forward to seeing you on Friday. Thank you so much for your time. And it's been lovely speaking to you, not just about Qawwali, not just about um, the performance itself, but about you as a person, about your journey as well, and how you got to the point where you are, and about you in Faisalabad in particular as well. In fact, a lot of people that listen to us are from Faisalabad originally,
Cool,
and
mashallah.
Lahore. So, so that'll be really interesting. So, thank you very much. So, any final words from yourself to our audiences?
Oh, I think because there's so much Desi population in Britain, it is your responsibility as well to support Qawwali music as one of your national genres spiritually. Um, I'm not just referring to coming out to our show, but to encourage the younger generation that are interested in this music to learn it properly, learn it from an ustad, so it's not going to be only associated to like party Qawwali and Qawwali nights and all that, but also keep that thread of connection to that extremely valuable spiritual tradition from your land. So supporting it in any way you can, whether it's through your own family and your community, um, and just carrying it with that adab in that respect. I think it's important so that our next generations, I have children too, Ashik Noor and Alia Zahida, so that our next generations can also carry this tradition with love and respect and understand it to some degree and have the blessing of its presence in their lives.
Very, very wise words to finish off on. Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to seeing you on Friday.
Khudafiz.
Good afternoon.